Welcome back to Smart Money. Warani and Ricardo are still with us, and we're looking at how to take charge of your finances. What are the steps that you should be taking and how to apply them? Before the ad break, we were defining financial planning. We were defining what to look for when you sit down with a financial advisor or financial planner. So now that we've got that and we understand our goals, sitting at your current salary, is it very easy to be able to now get into investing or even, as far as saving, irrespective of where I am in the salary bracket? Because most of the time we've created this, I suppose, this impression that investing and financial planning is for people who are either high net worth or who earn a certain amount of money, and you can't be a player in that game. Ricardo?
I think that's a great starting point, and I think there's 2 points that I'd like to make. One is that financial planning is actually, as soon as you start earning, you should have that concept of actually setting goals and actually having an approach to how you're going to direct your income. Yeah. I think the second point is that financial planning is more about a habit. So it's not necessarily about how much you're earning. It's about actually what are you going to do with that money. So it's forming habits at an early age. And it's about, like I've said before, directing that. And if you're not going to get into a habit at a young age, when you're earning a low income, as soon as you start earning the big numbers, you've actually grounded yourself in very bad habits, and you're going to be set yourself for financial failure.
Can you actually invest or save any percentage of your salary? Because irrespective of some reports or depending on who you speak to, somebody always seems to pick a number that perhaps when someone is looking at their salary thinking, but I pay bills and there's transport and all kinds of things, I don't have that percentage to put aside. What's your advice on that?
So, ideally, just to add on to what Ricardo said, it is very important to start when you start working. So often what happens is that people, when they start working, they first run and go and get debt instead of looking at the saving portion first. So it is important to look at the saving aspect in terms of your retirement, and then in terms of maybe your long-term goals, if you've got maybe plannings to buy a house or to go and buy a car, to start looking at those things earlier on. Then later on, go and say, what are the things that I want to build on? So if you started that way, you could have a percentage that you actually put towards your saving. Ideally, it's very, very important to save between 15 and 20% of your salary as a starting point. And there are different saving vehicles that you can focus on to try and build on an investment portfolio for yourself. And this is not a rocket science of saying that it has to be somebody with a lot of money. It can be anybody who starts earning an income. I think South Africa as a whole, we do not have a culture of saving as much as we should be having. So it is quite important that we start looking at all of those elements when we look at saving.
Ricardo, because life happens to all of us and some kind of obstacle can always come in between you and the goal that you're trying to achieve. I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of clients who come to you and say, this is the challenge I'm facing. What are some of the obstacles people encounter on their pathway to achieving their financial goals?
There's many, Nastasia, and I think it varies from person to person, but ultimately there's going to be kinks in the road, and that could be the fact that your source of income has been turned off. It's temporarily or permanently. There's been changes in your personal life, whether it's health, family matters, children, anything can go wrong, as you've said, and it's been able to adjust to that. And I think that's often where we've said having a financial planner is vital, because you've got someone to go back to help you make that money decision, as opposed to you on your own, you're hitting this roadblock thinking, what do I do now? Our human minds aren't wired to make good decisions, and often in times of uncertainty, we will revert to sort of hardwired behaviors. Those hardwired behaviors often lead to poor financial outcomes. So having a financial advisor or coach on the side that you can ask a question when you hit this stumbling block in your life, which does happen, you're actually going to have a better outcome and possibly solve it.
What I'm hearing as well is the lines of communication between you and financial planner needs to be so fluid that when you encounter even the small things, he can pull you to the side and you all can plan together in terms of what the next step should be. How do you then keep those communication lines fluid and open and transparent as possible?
So, one of the things that we're required to do, which is industry-wide, is for advisors to actually review their clients. So that gives an opportunity for the advisor and the client to keep having continuous conversation. I also think that it's also very important for the consumers to understand that they need to somehow always engage the financial advisor when they want to take decisions, especially big decisions around money. So what often happens is that advisors get to know about it much later, when the car has already been bought or the house has already been bought. So part of that journey is to ensure that before you start going and getting something, you speak to your advisor and make sure that it's tied within the budget that you would have set for yourself, between yourself and that advisor. So that conversation has to happen all the time.
There's always this saying, as cliche as it sounds, that people don't know what they don't know. So when they come to you, what are some of the questions that you would like your clients to be asking you in order to, I suppose, understand the way and the manner in which you work, and perhaps even the environment? Because the job that you guys do is particularly difficult, especially when you hear all kinds of noise in the financial markets around either global growth or even how local markets are performing.
Yes.
What kind of conversation do you then want to have with your clients? So one, they get you, but you're also getting them as well in terms of what they need.
So what we focus on largely at BDO when we're establishing relationships with our clients is really a lot around investment education. So we'd encourage our clients to actually ask us questions around investment principles. And it's avoiding the noise and the complication of sort of the larger markets, because that will come in time, but just getting to understand what is compound investment returns. I mean, that's the magic, and there's a host of other principles which we want to deal with. We deal a lot also, we get our clients to ask us around sort of their fears about money and investing. And that helps a lot with the conversation and the education aspect of our relationship.
Are there myths and misconceptions around investments? Like there's always that where people always tell you, don't judge past future returns based on what happened in the past, or don't do this. What are some of the misconceptions you often encounter in your space?
So one of the biggest ones is that clients tend to think that investment don't work, but that is purely because sometimes they would have gone into a wrong portfolio that is not suited to the term, also not suited to the needs that they have. So you hear clients saying, but I've been putting this money for 15 years and it was only grown by this much. But that's where they fail to understand that maybe they were not necessarily in the right vehicle to start off with. So it is quite important for clients to understand that to bust that myth, they have to understand the goal, why they are putting that money into that specific vehicle, and when they want to get it, because that compound interest plays a major role as well. So that's the biggest one that we often encounter within our business.
Thank you so much for joining us and helping us understand financial planning and the importance of one's financial journey. That's where we have to leave things. Thank you so much to my guest, Warani Mabaso, who's a Provincial General Manager at Absa Wealth and Investment Management, and Ricardo Teixeira, who is the Chief Operating Officer at BDO Wealth Advisers. Don't forget to tune in next time when we take a look at how to become saving savvy, and feel free to share your thoughts and insights with us, tweeting at Business Day TV using the hashtag SmartMoney412.